and the gentleman gave me a big box of boards that he didn't know what to do with, and one of the boards in there was this Bally -35 board. I'm done with all the work on it now. I kind of wish I filmed this progressively, but I did take some pictures, and I'll show you the pictures as we talk. But basically what went on is there was a lot of corrosion through here, significant corrosion. So what I did is I removed all the components that I normally do, and that would be, you know, the battery was originally across here, a rechargeable NiCad. So everything in this like corrosion battery zone that had a socket I pulled up. So removed these 4 chips, removed their sockets using a desoldering gun so that the board was just blank. And again, you can see the picture showing you here of that. Okay, then I take it up to my bead blaster. So my bead blaster allows me to basically remove the corrosion in a fairly gentle manner. But you can see, like for here, it just blew the copper right off the boards because the corrosion was so bad in this corner that the adhesion of the copper to the board was stressed, and it basically blew off. So after I got that done, I used some soldering wick or desoldering wick. It's this stuff here. You can buy it at Radio Shack. I don't know where I got this particular brand, but Chemwick it's called. I usually get the it usually comes with flux or without flux. I think it's always better with flux. But anyways, then I tied the ground traces together where they were blown through. A couple little areas like right here, I laid a piece, and obviously right here and one there. On the back, I also laid a piece right here. But anyways, bead blasted the back too. After I got that all addressed, before I put any of the components back on, the little plated through holes here, these get blown out in the corrosion a lot. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this one that's slightly hidden by the battery holder, 7. Those all kind of get wanked out. So what I do is I use this stuff, which is wire wrap wire. It's this really thin wire, and I basically stitch it through the hole. So I put a piece about yay long through the hole, tag it over on the front, tag it over on the back, and solder it on both sides. And that way, where the holes were highly compromised, you still have connectivity, because basically what these plated through holes do is taking a trace from the top side of the board and trying to put it through to the bottom side. So I tagged that all together. I replaced the reset components that, you know, are often bad, which are going to be 1, 2, 3 transistors, 2 diodes, 1, 2 diodes. Sometimes there's some caps and some other stuff, but those 3 transistors and those 2 diodes at minimum I always do. It got a new LED because the original one was bad. But before I put all the sockets on, I clear coat the board. So, I mean, just real lightly. I usually use Krylon Crystal Clear, the satin kind, but I actually didn't have that around, so I just used a straight can of Rust-Oleum lacquer. It doesn't really matter. All you're doing is basically trying to seal the board from the air, because, you know, no matter what you do to corrosion, it's going to come back, you know, if you don't somehow seal it away from the air. So just a very light coating on the board, both the front and the back, anywhere where I bead blasted it, and that'll stop the corrosion from coming back. And it's worked really well. One thing that I've done over the years is I collect old boards. Here's a whole stack of -35s that I've repaired over the years, and some -17s. I've had these for many, many years, and what I found is if the ones that I have not clear coated, the corrosion always comes back, no matter what you do. No matter what treatment you do to stop the corrosion, it always comes back. So once I got that all addressed, I put all the sockets back in, and the reset components, and battery pack. I'm using coin style battery with a blocking diode right here. And what else? Oh, and I converted the board to use 2 2732s. So now the board is basically ready to go. I replaced this socket too. Probably should replace this and this one. You can see that originally it was using these closed frame augets. You never want those. Those are bad sockets. This is an early Dash 35 board. Most use RN sockets that are open frame and are much more robust, but these closed frame ones just gotta go. So anyways, after I did all that, you can see the board is ready to be tested, which I will put on my test fixture and go. Now, you might ask why I went through all this trouble. And the simple fact of the matter is I went through all this trouble because this board was booting with the corrosion. I was getting a flash and a couple flickers. So I knew the board was basically good. It just needed a little corrosion love. Here's my test fixture. What this is basically a pinball game on a 2-foot by 4-foot piece of plywood. So I've got my reworked CPU board, I've got my solenoid driver board, I've got my transformer assembly and rectifier board, I have a sound board, I've got my score displays, I've got my complete set of lamps, and I've got my lamp driver board. So I've got basically a pinball game here. These things are my coils. This operates my single flipper I have up there so I can test the flipper relay. I do have a knocker coil on here if I need to, instead of using light bulbs. These light bulbs are going at the 43 volts. They're 6-volt light bulbs, just standard number 44s. But I use a large resistor down here to preload the bulbs so that they don't blow out. But I can go around that and I can wire directly to a coil if I, for some reason, wanted to do that. But anyways, let's watch the LED flicker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can see we got a working game. Sorry, I got Playboy ROMs in here, but I have the actual soundboard is for the Rolling Stones. So don't freak out on the sound for me. Anyways, I've got my test buttons and my coin buttons here. If I press my test button, I'll go to the lamp test. This is all 40 lamps that I'm testing, and I can go down and see if any aren't working. That mostly tests this board. You can see they're all working. Then I can go to the score display test, and I can make sure that I'm getting, you know, the cycling of all the scores. Then the next thing I go to is my coil test, and what this will do is it's going through all the coils and testing them under load. So you can see that it's doing that, and I have them labeled. So that's kind of testing the signal from this guy over to the solenoid driver board, all these transistors. And you can hear that click. That's the relay here. If I hold down my button, you can see the flipper go up over there in the corner. That's when it clicks that relay. Then the next test is the sound test, which we clearly know that's working. And then thank God that's over. Now we're into the switch test, and this is an old I don't know, switchboard that Alltech used to sell, and I've kind of repurposed it for a switch matrix board. I can press this, and it'll tell me the switch number, so I can go through each of the switches. I can't do quite all 40 here, but I can get pretty close. I think I'm missing like 5 or yeah, about 5. But anyways, I can go through this and test all the switches to make sure that the board's working. Appears the board's working fine. So now I have a complete board. Now, one of the questions that came up, and one of the reasons why I started down this road, was somebody on Pinside doesn't like the idea of leaving the copper traces looking copper. They paint them green to mask the original solder, or to match the original solder mask. Personally, I don't like that approach because the green obscures the work that you've done on the board, and anybody in the future that needs to work on the board is just going to hate you if they got to deal with the green that's masking stuff. And the corrosion could be coming out underneath it, and they can't see it because of the green. You know, it's a cosmetic thing, where my clear coating idea is purely functional. The green, painting all this stuff green again, to me it just seems like a waste. You're not, you know, they do it after they apply, you know, a lot of the components. You kind of got to clear coat before you put the sockets on, because you don't want corrosion coming on or reoccurring underneath the sockets. I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem practical. This is much more. It's obvious that the board's been worked on. It's obvious that it's had corrosion. I mean, it is what it is. It was a pretty trashed board when I started. I mean, most people would have just thrown it out. To try and, you know, make it cosmetically look like it's something it's not, I just don't personally believe in that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that it's not my cup of tea. But anyways, I hope this is helpful for anybody that's, you know, got a board Saturday afternoon and they want to fix some boards.